to speak with you. My name is Eleanor Howie. I'm the CEO of a company called Valiant Lingerie, in which capacity I have the opportunity to work really closely with people who've been infected by issues like a diagnosis of breast cancer, for example, and in the future, moving forward, with people who have other functional requirements. And it's in that capacity that I've had the pleasure of meeting the next speaker, who I'm going to have a chat with today, Chloe Smith. So without further ado, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce you to your Secretary of State for Work and Pensions. Chloe, I want to take this opportunity to say huge congratulations to you on your new role.
Eleanor, thank you. Thank you, Conference, I'm really excited to be with you as a brand new Cabinet member and to talk about our absolutely critical job of getting people into work. In fact, you can see one of our conference logos up there to the side of the stage. This is how central the work of my department is to our mission of going for growth. So I'm Chloe Smith, as you introduced me. I'm the Member of Parliament for Norwich North, and I'm very proud to be one of the longest serving female Conservatives in Parliament, and I'm totally thrilled to now be the Secretary of State for Work and Pensions. Before we get into our subject matter today, I'd like to thank the activists and the members who are with us here in the hall and maybe following from home as well. I, for one, have beaten Labour 5 times in a marginal seat, but I know that can't be done without you. So thank you to all of our members and activists and voters and supporters. And the same is true up and down our country. Eleanor, I'd also really like to thank you for joining us today. This is your first experience of a party conference, and you are really welcome with us because you're a very inspiring person in what you've done with your business. I find that venture you've taken really inspirational, both as an entrepreneur, of course, but also in terms of what you do. And we share that experience of the impact of breast cancer, and as it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, let's say to people who may be following us today that it is an opportunity to check for signs that might be there and to then go and get that seen to at the first opportunity. I think you also show how women can carry on with confidence from what may then follow, and I want to use my role as the Secretary of State for the Department for Work and Pensions to also help people to return to confidence and to return to work when that's right for them. Maybe they'll even consider following your steps into setting up their own small business.
Thank you, Chloe. Thank you for those kind words. And we have spoken about our shared interest in empowering women to feel confident. So it's great to hear. One of the things I'd like to hear from you about is what role you see the DWP playing in tackling the challenges that face our labour markets at the moment.
I think these challenges are absolutely central, Eleanor, to where we are as a country, and the DWP has a critical role to play in this. I'd like to thank my team at the DWP, and many are here in the audience. My ministers, Victoria Prentice, Alex Burghardt, Debbie Stedman-Scott, Claire Coutinho, our fantastic PPSs, David Johnson and Jerome Mayhew, and our whips, Joe Churchill and Byron Davis. Now, our focus, our mission, will be to help people to start and stay and succeed in work. And by doing that, we drive the economy. We need to help businesses fill their vacancies. Now, there may well be people in the audience here today, especially as it's business day at Party Conference, who have had direct experience of this. You may be sitting here having run your own company and thought, I need talent, I need to be able to recruit and to retain. And whilst unemployment is at its lowest rate for 50 years, which we should celebrate, vacancies are nonetheless too high. And so that limits growth, that leaves potential unfulfilled. My department will be helping to rise to that challenge. We want to help claimants into work, and we want to support those who are known as economically inactive. Now that means as many as 9 million people in our country who have not recently been looking for work. We need, as Conservatives, to focus on what people can do, not what they can't, and we will be doing that as a department. Now, we're already making changes to help people to find more hours and to earn more. That's critically important at a time when people are very anxious about the cost of living. And of course, it's also true that part of our department's mission is to help more people into work, which in turn means that with a sustainable tax base, we are able also to make sure our public services are on a firm footing for the future.
Great, thank you. We've also spoken in the past about our shared interest in business and the role of business. So perhaps you can tell me a bit about your view on that. What is the role of businesses?
Of course, also absolutely instrumental in this, because of course it's businesses' own vacancies, and we want to be able to play that role to help British business to thrive. Now, how do we do that? We are supporting businesses, of course, with our plan for growth, and you've heard the Chancellor and others, and I think you have the treat of the Business Secretary coming shortly this afternoon as well. And that includes the supply side reforms and the many projects we'll be working on up and down the country to get things moving. We're also supporting businesses with their energy costs, just as we are supporting households. But we know in turn, of course, that businesses want to be able to take people on, and businesses know that that means they will have to skill people up, they will have to invest in training. I would also point out the virtuous circle between health and work, and this is something my department will be absolutely focused on doing, because work is very good for one's health, and health is critical at work, and businesses know this, I think, for their employees. So to have people start and stay and succeed in good work, British businesses will be thriving as well.
Thank you. I think that leads really nicely on to something that's close to my heart and I know is an interest of yours, and that is what we can do to ensure that people who have disabilities or are facing health conditions to support them in playing an active role in the workforce.
You're absolutely right about this, Ellen, and it really is a passion that we both share, and I'm absolutely sure shared also by the audience here today, and indeed also I know something that a lot of businesses are beginning to focus on, and in many cases extremely successfully. Let's not forget, of course, that actually we've seen a great milestone passed earlier this year where we surpassed a manifesto commitment. We had hoped we might see 1 million more disabled people go into jobs over 10 years. In fact, that target got smashed in just 5 years. So this shows a number of factors at work, but also is something to be very, very proud of. Now, over the past 3 years, looking a little more widely, we do see rising inactivity, driven by increasing numbers of people leaving the workforce due to health problems, and also some different choices being taken by the over 50s. We, of course, want to retain that talent. And I believe there is much more we can do to help people get the chances that they deserve, because, of course, as Conservatives, that is what we believe in. Everyone needs the chance of a good job. When I was the Minister for Disabled People, I saw, as an example, how deaf people were too often left out, too often excluded in work or in education or in wider society. And that's why I was so proud to help lead the changes represented by the British Sign Language Act. And can I also thank our interpreters who are with us all through the conference. Now, there's much more to do. There is much more to do, and that's why we'll be shortly bringing forward our Health and Disability White Paper, in which we'll be looking at how we can make sure that wider support is there and that we look to transform our disability benefits to encourage people to be able to take up the opportunities that are right for them. As Conservatives, we believe nobody should be left behind or written off, and that's why disability employment is so high up my agenda.
Thank you. I'm really interested in what you're saying about retaining talent as well. What are you doing to support pensioners and older workers so that we're making sure that we don't lose that leadership expertise and those years of accumulated knowledge from older people?
You make a really great point, and I suspect there's a great deal of that knowledge and experience here in this room and listening into this conversation, because this is absolutely critical. As we are living longer, as we are enjoying fuller lives, I hope, then this becomes an absolutely central point, and it's something so important to businesses as well, because for the reasons we've discussed, businesses are seeking to fill their vacancies. They want, of course, to bring on talent throughout every stage of the workforce, but that absolutely means making sure that older workers are respected and valued. So in my department, we are stepping up the support that we're offering to job seekers over the age of 50. We're investing indeed an extra £22 million to help tackle joblessness in that age group. Also, we are mindful of the wider support that's needed, and so we have confirmed that pensions will again be supported by the triple lock. And I can say today that as part of continuing what we've done with our broader cost of living payments to help the pensioners, to help the disabled people, to help those on the lowest incomes, we are making the next payment in the month of November, and I know that will be welcome news to many. We do understand that these are very anxious times for people. We know that people are struggling with some of the costs that are rising, and that's why protecting the most vulnerable is a vital priority for me and to this government.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chloe. It's been really great hearing about everything that you're doing and about your ambitions for the future. I know that there are many things that you're really passionate about, and you're bringing that passion to your new role and to the challenges that lie ahead. So thank you so much for talking to me about it today.
And Ellie, thank you for coming to join us. I really am excited. It's a huge job we've got to do. There's no doubt about that. But if we are going for growth, if we are helping people into more jobs and to earn more and to find opportunity and to find prosperity, then this is where we make that difference. As Conservatives, we believe that everybody should have that chance at a really great job. And I know that the businesses who are here today and who are part of the fabric of our nation up and down the land, that is where we can really help. And that is what going for growth really means. It's an opportunity to help millions of people. It's an opportunity to look at inspiring role models, perhaps like yourself, Ellie, but it's an opportunity also to make that difference in every household in the country. That is my mission, and conference, thank you for being part of it as well. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Secretary of State for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, and congratulations for coming to the conference in spite of the best efforts of Mr. Mick Lynch, who seemed to wish to get in the way. But thank you for being here, because you are the beating heart of the Conservative Party. You're the stalwarts who do all the work for us and make sure people like me get elected. So I thank you for all you do for conservatism and supporting us so much. That you make it work. You make sure we have Conservative governments, and your getting here was proof of that. And some of you may think that I should be going round the trains, putting out little calling cards saying how much I look forward to seeing people back at work soon. Because actually, we have a tireless quest for productivity in this country, and we need to make sure that everybody is working efficiently, and we want them obviously to be working in their proper places of work. But also I want to thank you for giving me almost as warm a welcome as I got outside the hall. But I think that's rather marvellous. I happen to think that having a democracy where you can actually walk through the streets and people can exercise their right to peaceful protest shows the strength of our society. And if people really want to call me Tory scum, I don't mind. And it has to be said, walking through the beautiful streets of Birmingham, turned blue once again, or turning blue once again, thanks to the great efforts of Andy Street, is a great privilege. And it's lovely to be here, and to be here with this fantastic audience, and to be speaking to you as Business Secretary. And I'm going to reintroduce a great tradition that Secretaries of State used to have when they came into the conference, of introducing my brilliant ministerial team. So my fellow Cabinet Minister, Graham Stewart, is here as Minister for Climate. Jackie Doyle-Price is here as Minister for Industry. Nusrat Ghani, Minister for Science and Investment Security. Dean Russell, Minister for Enterprise and Markets. And Lord Callanan, who I can't actually see here, but is nonetheless a very great man, is the Minister for Business, Energy and Corporate Responsibility. I am so lucky to be supported by what I think is the A team of ministers, and you can tell that to all the other departments who only have B teams, so let's be clear that I have the A team supporting me. But it's also quite fun to be speaking for the first time in all the years I've been a Member of Parliament from the main stage. I did once in the old days when I was the candidate in Wrekin get up to the main stage, but that was only for about 3 minutes, and I've got a bit longer now. But it makes a change. I used to do the rounds of the fringes, when sometimes I wasn't entirely in line with what the government was then doing. So it's nice to be on the main stage and leaving the fringes to certain other right honourable friends of mine who seem to be having a jolly time. But instead, I'm here in full support and honoured to serve a first-class Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister, since she took office, has completed about a year's government business in a fortnight. And I'm glad to say I think the Prime Minister, and I say this as Minister for Energy, is a genuine dynamo and is producing electric fields that are making sure that things get done, and she knows how urgent the challenges we face are. And the challenges are particularly in energy. First of all, affordability this winter. Second, securing energy supplies. And third, what I would like to call intelligent net zero. And how are we tackling those challenges? Well, rapidly is the answer. As the opposition sniped and catcalled and did what it usually does, we got on with it. We worked properly, night and day, and actually the civil servants in Bays worked incredibly long hours to create the energy price guarantee for households and the energy bill relief scheme for businesses. We have ensured that the British people, families and businesses, will get help now from the 1st of October with energy price support that took effect on Saturday, regardless of where they live in the United Kingdom and however they get their energy. His Majesty's government has acted with speed and foresight to deliver this protection for households throughout the entire kingdom. And the same is true for... Thank you, somebody agrees with me, that's so nice. You've all been here a very long time, so the fact that one person is paying attention is a great relief. I'm very much obliged. So the same is true for businesses. We have averted a genuine economic disaster by protecting businesses, charities and public services, including schools and hospitals, particularly care homes, from catastrophic rises in their energy costs. We did this, we had to do this, because of Putin's monstrous invasion of Ukraine. It seems that his ambition is to make Ivan the Terrible look like Padre Pio. And his wicked acts are what forced up the price of gas to an extent that would have ruined almost every business and left virtually every family unable to afford their energy. I actually said to a journalist from The Sun that the only person who could have afforded an energy bill this winter would have been the proprietor of The Sun. Everyone else would have been in penury. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, we have done what we have done, not some blunt instrument that our socialist counterparts might have used, but a well-designed, effective way of getting support to all, and a support that will decline as the energy price normalises. Now, you are proper conservatives, aren't you? You are the bluest of the blue. And there may be some of you who think it's not conservative to intervene in this way. But I would say that there was no question that we had to come to the British people's aid. We could not let people face this winter alone. This is actually fundamentally what the state is there for, to do the things for people that they cannot do for themselves. Some burdens are too great for individuals and families to bear, and these must be borne by the nation herself. These are the burdens of security, of policing, of defence. And this action is an act of defence for our people every bit as much as making munitions or tanks. And our great hero, I expect he's a great hero of all of you, scanning this hall, even before you know who I'm going to say, I'm confident that this man is a great hero of many of you. Adam Smith himself, the father of free marketeers, the paterfamilias of economic theory, put the defence of the nation above all else. He told us that the Navigation Acts, which you will all recall from your O-level history, against the Dutch, it's quite interesting, you know all those things we say about Dutch courage and so on and so forth, all come from the 17th century wars we fought against the Dutch. But he said the Navigation Acts were the wisest of all the commercial regulations of England because they stopped a then hostile nation, and just the record, we're now very friendly with the Dutch, harming Britain. Defence, Adam Smith said, was of much more importance than opulence. And what he meant by that was it was worth the short-term cost to defend Britain from national animosity. And as so often, what was true in the 18th century is true today. The war may not be on our shores, but we will defend the United Kingdom against Mr. Putin's evil. And our decisive Our decisive action will save millions of families and businesses from penury. And you know what? Imitation is the greatest form of flattery. We're being imitated by our German friends who have rolled out an almost carbon copy scheme. So, this intervention, helping families from falling into debt and misery through crippling energy costs imposed on them by a tyrant in Moscow, has averted a disaster for Britain's small businesses this winter, salvaging the livelihoods that would have been destroyed. So this winter, we are once again standing together with the British people. But there is more to do, because we have to make sure that this doesn't occur again. We must act to provide energy security and to use our energy better. But the more we produce, the more affordable the scheme we have introduced will be. Energy supply, cheap energy, is the foundation of our prosperity. Our reserves of coal and the pursuit of new technologies to dig it out. No, I'm going back to history, I'm sorry. I'm not advocating coal now. I'm disappointing one person in the audience. Digging it out of the ground spurred the Industrial Revolution. The discovery of North Sea oil and gas, combined with Mrs. Thatcher's visionary leadership, turbocharged the British economy in the 1980s. And now our future prosperity depends on our ability to secure affordable energy in abundance. High energy costs have made our industries uncompetitive and increased the cost of building roads and railways. They've often meant the difference between business choosing to invest in the United Kingdom or turning their backs. So we have an energy supply task force led by the highly esteemed Maddie McTurn, who delivered the vaccines that rescued us from the COVID pandemic, and she is moving to secure our energy supplies in the coming months. Our aim is secure, cheap, and plentiful supplies, the veritable engine of economic growth. Now, that may lead socialist commentators to paint me as a fossil fuel junkie. But I am neither a fossil fuel junkie, nor, it has to be said, a junkie of any other variety. So let me reassure you that I'm committed to net zero by 2050. But the green agenda does not mean an agenda of poverty. It does not contradict the growth agenda. So we will go green in a way that makes the British people better off, not worse off, drives growth instead of hindering it, levels up by boosting industries in our region instead of imposing costs that drive them to the brink of ruin. The faddish Islingtonian Labour Party was happy to destroy industries like steel by imposing needless costs on their energy, which wasn't just unfair, it was ungreen, and simply forced manufacturing overseas, making us import more polluting products. We need intelligent greenery, not religious zealotry. And as for the socialist ideas of a nationalised energy dream, that would do nothing but create shortages, rationing, and intermittency. So, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard me called before, no doubt, the honourable member for the 18th century. Actually, right honourable member nowadays. I mustn't forget the promotion I was kindly given by the great Boris Johnson, who put me in Her Majesty's Privy Council. But it's not an insult to me, because the Georgians were pioneers, innovators, inventors of the power loom and the spinning jenny, the fathers of the Industrial Revolution. Think of Jethro Tull, whose seed drill transformed agriculture, the beginnings of the agricultural revolution. Now, some of you thought he was a pop star, but actually we're talking about agricultural innovation. Matthew Boulton of this great city and James Watt, who developed the steam engine that powered the Industrial Revolution. It is that spirit of progress that this government must capture, which is why we are moving full steam ahead with carbon capture and storage, expanding the world's biggest wind farm at Dogger Bank, developing hydrogen and nuclear, including modular nuclear reactors. But the most exciting may be fusion. Now, bear in mind, Isaac Newton believed in the Philosopher's Stone and thought that you could turn base metals into gold. So fusion is a great hope. It is a potential ace up our sleeve, but it'd be silly of me not to pretend that it's difficult. It offers unparalleled potential for clean power production, promising a future of inexhaustible energy that could unshackle us from hydrocarbons and make us truly self-sufficient and secure. But the technological hurdles are big. Fusion reactors must apparently sustain a temperature 10 times hotter than the sun, which, whether you use centigrade or, like me, prefer Fahrenheit, is nonetheless very hot. The containment of which requires magnets so strong that they could lift an aircraft carrier clean out of the ocean. We get one of those. That might make Mr. Putin's navy find life rather difficult if we just pick it up with magnet. Anyway, reminds me of the, is it The Spy Who Loved Me, where Jaws gets lifted up by a magnet that picks his teeth. That wasn't in my official text, so I hope it doesn't make it too difficult to translate it. But over the decades, we have established ourselves as pioneers in fusion science. And as a country, our capability to surmount these obstacles is unparalleled. And I'm delighted to make an announcement about the step in that mission. We will build the UK's first prototype fusion energy plant in Nottinghamshire, replacing the West Burton coal-fired power station with a beacon of bountiful green energy. The plant will be the first of its kind, built by 2040, and capable of putting energy on the grid. And in doing so, it will prove the commercial viability of fusion energy to the world. It will create thousands of highly skilled, excellent. I think, and I hope somebody will clip that as a round of applause for the good people of West Burton in Nottinghamshire for what they are managing to do for this nation. So it could be an industry worth billions of pounds to the UK economy, and position the UK to design, manufacture and export the first fleet of fusion plants, putting us in the vanguard of a market with the potential to be worth trillions of pounds a year. But in the meantime, we've got to have some energy in the meantime, and you realise we got some last week, because we got enough hot air from the Socialist Conference to keep the turbines spinning for decades to come. You are kind. And what a marvellous audience. You laugh at the most terrible jokes. I am very grateful. I have a penchant for terrible jokes. I hope there aren't too many more. But what we're talking about is environmentalism that is about prosperity, about opportunity, and not about lectures. Now, we've been having a discussion about shale gas, and I want to contextualise that, because I know not everybody is keen on it, and we have to get community support for shale gas. That is of fundamental importance. But Lord Deben wrote to my predecessor, he's the chairman of the Climate Change Committee, saying that shale gas can provide 2 to 63 grams per kilowatt hour of carbon dioxide equivalent less than from LNG being imported. What I mean, and that illustrates what I mean about intelligent net zero. It's about making decisions that reduce carbon but also make us more prosperous. Doesn't mean everything that I say is going to happen tomorrow, but it's about a program that makes sure we don't harm our industry so that we go green in ways that create rather than destroying prosperity. Because cheap energy is essential to a flourishing economy, but in a way it's the foundation of a flourishing economy. There's more to do. So that's why we are looking at supply-side reforms that go much further. We've already at this conference announced that the definition of small and medium-sized enterprises will expand from 250 employees to 500. Thank you. One more person agrees. This is great. I mean, this is absolutely marvellous. It's so good. I get one person to agree, and then some of you join in. So the more of that, the better. This is what we need at a Conservative conference. And I know you've all been here for hours, probably gasping for a cup of tea. And I'm not going to detain you too much longer. But thank you to the gentleman over there who is delighted that we're going up to 500 rather than 250 employees for a small and medium-sized enterprise, extricating them from a host of regulatory burdens, including costly non-financial reporting requirements, which are simply paper shuffling. Well, in my case, not so much paper as parchment, but then I have to stop. But the structural reforms that we're about to deliver include the Brexit Freedoms Bill. The Brexit Freedoms Bill is a fantastic piece of legislation, defining constitutional piece of legislation that will remove the dead hand of EU laws from our statute book finally. There are over 2,400 EU laws that will be amended or appealed, and any EU regulation which remains will no longer apply to these SMEs of up to 500 employees, and thanks to this Prime Minister, we're going to get it done by the end of 2023. It is full speed ahead. This will take more businesses out of the clutches of overbearing regulation, freeing the British economy further and making us more competitive. But we've also got to deal with strikes. We've got to keep Britain moving. Isn't that what it says somewhere up here? Yes. And we've got to keep Britain moving by making it harder to have strikes that bring the nation to a halt. So the Prime Minister promised in her campaign that we would legislate for minimum service levels for essential services to ensure that the modernisation of our economy is not held to ransom by union militancy. And bear in mind, Owen Jones came up to me today and had a go at the funders of the Tory party. The funders of the Tory party don't buy the right to have a say in the leadership, do they? And the Socialist Party, they hold the Socialist Party to ransom, these unions, and they also want to try and hold the country to ransom. So the minimum service levels will make that harder, and we will be making that bill a reality soon. And it is a great... and if I may use a rude word, it is a great modernisation. But we also need to improve R&D. My department, the department I now lead, spends billions of pounds of taxpayers' money each year on R&D, and that must be a focus for value for money and turning our innovations into inventions. We're doing that with nuclear technology, but we need to make sure that every pound spent is delivered, and I'm delighted that ARIA has such good and strong leadership and will be able to help ensure that we turn seed capital in R&D into real investment value for the nation. Ladies and gentlemen, we know these are difficult times. and historic mistakes on energy policy have led us to where we are. But it's always the Conservatives who are best at dealing with difficult situations and make us take those tough decisions that aren't necessarily immediately popular. And this doesn't matter whether it's in nuclear or in shale or in deregulation. Cheap energy and supply-side reforms will provide us with economic growth, and the pressure of difficult times is forcing us in the direction where we need to go. You, ladies and gentlemen, are so fundamental as advocates and ambassadors for that because you are the Toryest of the Tory, and you know how the country should be governed, and it's why we need your support. We, together, have a nation-defining mission to complete, and I rely on you to complete it.